Welcome to HortTube. My name is Jim Putnam. This is the Sunday garden question and answer video that I do on Sundays. Somebody tried to make me change the way I introduced this. It's actually just a joke that I realized that I'm saying the Sunday garden question and answer video that I do on Sundays, and now I've said it twice. I said it like that one time and I've just continued to say it. Thank you guys for participating in this video. You can ask questions down below if you want to have your question answered. I pick through them each week and pick 20 or so and try to pick some slightly different things or things that are seasonally appropriate questions that might involve the heat in the summertime because it's summertime, that kind of thing. And again, thank you guys for participating. One thing I talked about last week is upcoming trips that I have this summer, and I'm going to some amazing gardens, and more got added this past week. So I'm again very appreciative of you guys for kind of opening some of those doors. Just the size of this channel sometimes is helpful in getting a door opened here or there. And so again, thank you guys for all your participation in that. The videos that have gone up since last Sunday were a tour video here, and I have harvested some potatoes. There was a question about that that'll be coming up. And then what other videos went up this week? I put up a plant combo video that I had actually shot back in the fall with Kip McConnell down in Loxley, Alabama for the Southern Living Plant Collection. It went up on their channel as well, and we were just showing off some things in the collection, how they go together. I don't think you will have seen Jeremy's finished wall video before this. I'm hoping to edit it between now. You're seeing this. I'm doing this on Friday, and this goes up on Sunday. Saturday, I'm hoping to have Jeremy's project up on the channel. I don't know if I'll get it edited or not. If you haven't seen it then, you'll see it Monday or Tuesday. He finished that a while ago as well, but there's so many video pieces from that because I went back several times during the construction of it. So it should be a great video. It's just a lot of pieces to put together. And then I shot a silent video over here at the Rose Garden that's in my neighborhood. I talked about it in last Sunday's video, so I thought I'd go over there and show it off. I walk through it almost every day, including today. I walk around in the neighborhood and always end up cutting through the Rose Garden at some point. It kind of sits in the center of the neighborhood that I live in. And then if you want to follow me on my travels, you might want to follow me over on Instagram. If you haven't, it's just at HortTube over at Instagram, because you'll know, when I go to one of these gardens, there'll be photos of the garden there, probably weeks perhaps before the videos end up on the channel. So if you want to follow me over there, and I am going to one big YouTuber's house as well. You guys can guess down below who that is. A gardening YouTuber. Okay, and I think that's everything. So I'll get started on some questions that you guys asked from last week's video. Next week's also going to be a question and answer, so you can ask questions down below here. I don't have time to put together the Subscriber Sunday video for July because I've just got a lot going on this week. That video does take a while to edit. So we'll go back to that in August. So, but I'm going to skip a month on it, and next week will be question and answer. Okay. I shoot these in one take, and then they go up. Good, bad, or ugly, they go up in one take. So these are quick and easy for me to do in comparison. Okay, so somebody asked about sun-scalded plants, and so if you've put something in the ground and it wasn't ready for the direct sun to be on it, or perhaps it's a shade plant, and it's got that sun scald on it, I probably wouldn't do anything. It's not something that's generally going to kill the plant. If you needed to transplant it because it needed more shade, you would do that in the fall probably. I probably wouldn't do that when the plant's already under some stress right now. If the plant just got sun scalded because it had been sitting in too much shade, maybe at the garden center it came from, or it wasn't watered enough, frequently a plant can just be dehydrated and burn. I've got a white wedding hydrangea out there at the street. It was in the tour video this week. And if you look closely, you can see some burn in the center of those leaves. That plant's perfectly fine in the full sun, but it had been back here in a pot being abused, honestly, without hardly any soil in the pot in the shade. And then it went out to the full sun. So it was just literally a sunburn like you would get on your skin. So if it's a plant that needs more shade, move it in the fall. Otherwise, it will adapt next year, especially if it's something that loses its leaves. It'll come back out better the next year. Plants can't adapt. So I got a lot of comments on my compost rant last week. I don't know if it's a rant, but my talk about toxic compost and the chemicals that are being used. So I participate. Thank you. I appreciate your guys' commentary down below. You can go back and learn from some folks. You know, somebody commented from Europe that it's, you know, just as bad there, and that, you know, a lot of these herbicides are sold at Home Depot and Lowe's, and, you know, so on and so forth. If you want to go back and find out anything more, some people did make some comments and some experiences that they had down below that video. Somebody asked me about barberries and ticks. There's this thing about, you know, that first of all, Berberis thunbergii, a Japanese barberry, is very, very invasive in the Northeast United States. It's not invasive everywhere. Here it doesn't seed itself. So we've had barberries in the ground here for just as long as they've had them in Connecticut. But in Connecticut, they're literally lining the ditches. And so, I mean, it's incredible how much that plant seeds itself up there. I've been up there and just been amazed in the wintertime when they have no leaves on them. You can really see it, how bad it actually is. There are sterile cultivars, and a lot of sterile cultivars have been released. That was one of the comments from the combo video earlier in the week. You know, that people are scared of barberries, but most of the ones that are being released now, people are pretty cognizant of it. You can't have them in those states anyway. They would have to approve them for them to be sold in those states that are worst affected, you know, by the Japanese barberries. One of the rumors that comes along with it, though, is that they attract ticks. And I saw some study from, maybe it was at UConn, where, you know, they had said that there were more ticks in an area that was covered in barberries than not, and they guessed it was because the barberries were holding in more humidity. I have no idea. And then, of course, there's the theory that, you know, because they have thorns, the ticks have figured out that no predator can get after them. You know, I don't know if the things actually draw in more ticks. I know that the microstegium here, the Japanese stilt grass, definitely has more ticks in it. And it's not because it draws in more ticks. I think it's because the deer walk through it and they don't eat it. And so it's perfectly good cover. And it may be a humidity issue, maybe not. But I don't think it has anything to do with barberries having thorns. But the barberries growing as thick as they do is probably, you know, one reason why you would find more ticks in an area with the barberries. But I don't think there's like some, like, come in here, it's barberries thing that the ticks have figured out in, you know, in 2 generations. I don't think that's probably accurate. But you probably do end up with more ticks in an area where you have a congested growth in the understory. So that would be my guess. So somebody asked, okay, so I made a playlist and put all of Ram's videos in it, and one other playlist I had created. And the person asked me to create a playlist for the relaxing videos, the videos that either are set to music or to bird sounds in the background, which you can probably hear birds right now. And I did that. So all the videos I've ever shot where I didn't run my mouth through them are in a playlist. I'll link it down below on this particular video if you want to watch those. They're ones that you can just turn on in the background and let them play, and you don't have to and then but most of those videos have another video where I did talk in them. If you want to learn what the plants are in the videos, I get probably more negativity on those videos than any other videos. I don't care. I like to do them. It doesn't bother me. You know, a thumbs down is the least of my concerns in this lifetime. But I think it is because I didn't talk through the plants. People looked at it and wanted to know what the plants were. But a lot of those videos, I do have an associated video with it where I did talk through it. Denny Werner's pollinator garden, I did a silent video and a talking video. Rob's, my most recent one, neighborhood tour video. I have 2 talking tour videos from his place. Ram's, I've been breaking down slowly with other videos. So anyway, there's probably an associated video with it. I kind of like them myself, just to watch something that's beautiful without, you know, somebody yakking away like I'm doing right now. Okay, let's see. Somebody asked about this is a good question, about chemical residues on containers. So they had they're basically growing vegetables in the black nursery containers, and wanted to know if there were chemical residues on those containers. So if you got something from a nursery and then planted it and then immediately reuse that black pot for your lettuce, are you actually growing organic lettuce? Probably not. Almost certainly there's some sort of chemical residue on that. One of the chemicals that most of the nurseries use is especially here in the South, we cannot ship plants into the North without putting a fire ant insecticide in the container. And so most of them have an insecticide even blended into the soil mix. So I would think you'd need to wash the pots to actually call your lettuce organic. It doesn't mean that every black pot's full of chemicals, but some are, certainly. And so you can't answer that question as a no, and you can't answer it as a yes. But so if you're concerned about it and you were going to grow organic produce or food in them, you would want to wash them, and you'd want to wash them with something that would break oils down, because a lot of the chemicals have oils in them that make sure that they stick to the foliage. So keep that in mind. If it's stuck to the container, it's not coming off easily. So you need to use dishwashing soap. Clean them with dishwashing soap if you want to call something organic, or give it some period of time. Okay. Somebody has a crepe myrtle that's very, very upright, and they want it to spread a little more to things that are around it. Actually need some shade. I don't think you can, they wanted to train some limbs to go down. I guess you could reach up and grab a branch and anchor it in place with a piece of bamboo in the ground in several spots and train it. You could do that. I think you probably got a very upright cultivar. It's been one of my complaints in crepe myrtle breeding recently. We've gotten some great new colors. I mean, some vibrant pinks and some really amazing reds, true reds. We used to call Tuscarora, which is a watermelon red, we used to call it red. And then all of a sudden we actually got real reds, dynamite, some really great colors. A lot of those plants, though, I don't like the growth habit on them. They're very fastigiate. They're very upright. They don't have that traditional weeping habit that the National Arboretum varieties like Natchez and Tuscarora and Sioux and the others had, that I really, really like. And it's one of the things that kind of defines crepe myrtles for me is that shape that they have up at the top. They have the beautiful upright bark, amazing, root flare down at the bottom that's always interesting as well. And then they've got this weeping habit. And some of the newer cultivars just won't do that. You can try to prune it in the wintertime some, not crepe myrtle style, like where you go in half, but you can take, you can take it down 10 or 20%. You could probably get a little bit more spread out of it. But my guess is you probably have one of the varieties that's just, very fastigiate, which again, I don't care for all that much. And I wish they were still also breeding for that weeping habit. Of course, some people are putting them in narrow spaces and need a narrow variety, so it may work for them. I can't see the flowers as well when they don't splay over either, where they don't have that mushroom shape. So that's kind of weird to me too, that the flowers are right up at the tippy top of a very vertical plant. Anyway, okay. Somebody pulled out some roses because the Japanese beetles were tearing them up so much and wanted to know if the Japanese beetles would still be back next year. Yes, absolutely. I don't talk about Japanese beetles very much on this channel because I don't have any. Maybe there's one out here somewhere, but we don't have a lot of lawn in our neighborhood, and it's very shady. And those two things kind of contribute. I would definitely call Japanese beetles a suburban problem, or places that have lots and lots of lawn tend to have more Japanese beetles. It doesn't mean that there's no Japanese beetle grubs in these beds, but for the most part, they like eating grass roots, and they like to be in full sun spaces. And so part of it is the spaces that we've created are just perfect for Japanese beetles. So you can try to control the grubs in the lawn. You can try to do the traps. You can pick them off and flick them off. Down at the other house, I would have Charlie, when he was little, I'd just pay him to go out and collect as many as he could. He liked thumping them off the plants. But at the end of the day, your neighbors are not going to cooperate with your, it doesn't, Japanese beetle right there next door can come over here anytime it wants to. They're not exactly landlocked. So they're going to move about. So unless you've got a whole neighborhood to agree in some way to reduce the amount of lawn, plant more trees, that's actually the solution. The solution is kill your lawn. That's the solution. But yes, they'll be back. They do have favorites for sure, and those rose family things are definitely high up on their list, and crepe myrtles, even azaleas, and there's some annual things too that they'll go after, and then some that they don't bother all that much. But again, there's not much you can do about it other than those basic controls in the bags and that kind of thing. As long as you're living out in suburbia with a half acre of grass, and your neighbors have the same thing going on, you're going to continue to have them. Not the answers people want. Let's see. Somebody bought a Jazz Hands Loropetalum. That's one of the variegated varieties. They bought one of the variegated Jazz Hands Loropetalum. I actually think there's a solid purple Jazz Hands one's too bold, maybe. It's solid purple. Anyway, the variegated one, and a lot of the growth on it's solid purple. It's not variegated. I've got several variegated plants here in this landscape that have done the same thing when you initially plant them. I wouldn't worry about it. I wouldn't worry about it till it was in its second season. I got a variegated Nandina over here that wasn't variegated at all last year. I bought it variegated in a container. It was almost solid green last year. This year, I'm looking over there at it now. It's got a lot of variegation on it, and I imagine it'll have even more next year. So again, those first year, the way plants look the first year, I've said this many times, does not determine how they'll look in the future. Somebody wanted to know if the Chinese dogwood, the Chinese evergreen dogwood I have out in the front garden, would grow in zone 8B in Texas. It'll grow in zone 8. I don't know about where you are in Texas, and definitely not in the sun. I think you need to get the roots shaded on that plant and get it in the understory somewhere. My guess is it's probably just too hot where you are. Keep in mind, when we're talking about zone 8B in Texas, the zone 8 thing is only referring to the fact that your average low winter temperature is like 15 degrees. Okay? It doesn't tell me anything about today might be 110. It doesn't tell me anything about summertime. And the 15 degrees isn't going to hurt the plant. The 10 degrees, 5 degrees, 20 degrees. It's not a low temperature issue. It's a maximum temperature issue with dogwoods for the most part. And so again, it's one of those fails of the way in which we go about determining where plants can grow by only talking about their cold tolerance. Because I guarantee I'm 90. Holly's not out here, by the way, because it's very hot out here this afternoon, and she's 13, and I'm trying to just be, I walk her 2 times early in the morning, and then I get her in the house the rest of the day. She doesn't like it. Anytime I bring the camera near the door, she's standing at the door ready to go, but I wasn't going to have her out here in this heat. But I guarantee it's 92 here, and you're 8B Texas as you're watching this video on Sunday. It's probably 99 or whatever. So I don't think so. I could be wrong, and you'd want to put it in the shade if you were going to try it. Okay, somebody has spider mites attacking their dahlias, and they took them out. They followed my advice on if it's not making you happy, throw it out, and then came back and tried them again and have mites again. I don't know why you're getting spider mites on the dahlias. Obviously, I've talked about plants being under stress or tend to be the ones who, get attacked by mites. I don't have any mite issues on mine. I don't know, again, I don't know how they're planted, the type of soil you have. I don't know if you're using, compost and hardwood mulch. I don't know if you're pushing them too much with fertilizer. That can be an issue. I just don't know. I'm reading a question and trying to discern why you would end up with mites on them, but I definitely wouldn't retry them for a while. Maybe prep a different space for them. Maybe find a new space and put 12 inches of wood chips on it and wait a year and then plant into that space, see if you can create some sort of environment that's better for them. I don't know if they're missing some nutrient in the soil you have where you are. See, this could be another thing. Most of the time, most of the minerals that these plants need are in our soils, and our pH can be problematic, so you can test your pH. You could actually, if your pH is in line and it's just slightly acidic, they should be fine. If that's correct, you could then get a full soil test and see if there's actually just something missing in your soil, or something very low or something ridiculously high off the charts as well. You know, I've seen that before. You know, there's a couple places in Raleigh where I had magnesium 50 times more than you should ever find it anywhere, and it was tracked down, and it was just some lime that was sold years ago in the city, and people repeatedly put it down, trying to raise their pH with using lime, which is ineffective over time, but they were dumping lots of magnesium on their, to the point where their soil was toxic, you know, for plants, you know, for certain plants. So anyway, could be something like that as well. So pH test and then a soil test, and maybe create a new space for them and come back in a couple years with them. Okay, let's see. Somebody bought a Daphne and a Leucothoi, and then said you called them notorious plants. Yes, they are notorious for dying, and wanted to know whether I would summer plant them. I probably wouldn't. I'd probably wait till fall. I mean, I'm a person who will dig a hole and plant almost anything, anytime. It can be, I've taken plants when they're frozen solid and, you know, had to cut the pots off of them to plant them. And I've planted plants on 103-degree days. I mean, and you know, just cut them back a little bit. So I'm a person to plant almost anything. I'm probably not going to plant a Daphne or a Leucothoi in the heat of the summer. And the reason is because it sets up a weird watering thing where they're both easy to drown. And if you set them up, you're almost setting them up for failure, where they're going to need water, they're going to be stressed, and you're going to be watering them, and you're going to be concerned every time you're watering them, whether you're watering them enough or too much. Just wait till fall. Somebody has a new hydrangea. This is a good question. It's in full bloom and it's struggling. Should they prune the flowers off? Yes. Again, another question nobody will like, but yes. If you're buying a plant in full bloom in the summertime, enjoy the flowers in the container and then put it in the ground afterwards. I've got a couple paniculatas and 3 macrophyllus over here that I'm shooting some videos for the Southern Living Plant Collection for their grower network videos that I shoot for them, and they're in flower over there. There's no way I'd put those things in the ground right now, or if I did, I would take the flowers off. So yes, you're right. You have the right solution. You just have to pull the trigger on taking the flowers off. Okay. Somebody had a similar question about having lots of mealy bugs on things in their gardens. They tend to be little puffy, little insects along the stems, typically not on really old growth. If you see that on really old growth, a lot of times that's scale or magnolia scale that will get on old parts of the plant. But if you see it like on a sunflower or something like that along the stems, typically that is mealy bugs. Again, I'm going to go back and say the same thing. If you're seeing these big insect problems, if it's in a new garden space, there are a lot of predators that eat mealy bugs, you know, including ladybugs and things like that. So don't start on some spraying thing. Assume there's something going on. I always assume there's something going on with the, you know, the soil, the prep, you know, a missing nutrient, too much of a nutrient, pH is off, that kind of thing. But I'm also sitting here going, you know, something, either the birds are going to solve it, or ladybugs are going to solve it, or spiders are going to solve it. Something's going to put it back in balance if I just kind of get out of the way a bit. So that's my approach to those things. 2 years ago, I had terrible, all of my brassicas were just absolutely covered. That's, you know, kale and broccoli and all of those things, and little, you know, the little caterpillars that get on them. And I still have those little white butterflies that you see floating around everywhere. They're still over there laying eggs on them. But I've got birds on my brassicas basically all day long picking those things off and cleaning them up. So it was a year-long problem that nature found a solution for pretty quickly. And my brassicas have been reasonably clean ever since then. Again, that's like kale and broccoli and cauliflower, that kind of thing. Okay. Somebody, they went to buy some organic fertilizer and they wanted Espoma products, but they were out of Espoma products and wanted to know if that Dr. Earth was just as good. Yes, yeah, you can absolutely use it. The only reason I wrote this question down, beyond saying yes, is also, I don't do a lot of fertilizing here in the peak of summer. Be careful pushing things right now. You can, organic fertilizers don't push things a lot. But even your when it's not in the mid to upper 90s, even the stuff, all the plants go into a kind of a semi-dormancy. I would imagine the microbes under the soil are kind of doing that same thing, and they go through a period of time where they're just like, they did all that spring and early summer growing, and now they're like, we're just gonna sit here, do nothing, and then once the days start to get shorter again, they'll start to put on some growth again. All that stuff will start happening again, but be careful pushing plants. You can use it in your containers and your vegetable garden if it needs a second fertilizing, but be careful just generally fertilizing things when the plants are under stress. Okay, so somebody's peonies got broken by a big limb. They wanted to know if they'd come back next year. Probably. If they had any period of time at all where they had the green foliage up above the ground, they probably stored enough energy for next year. May not be the best year they're ever going to have, but I doubt it killed them. Okay, so and this is another one of those questions that puts me in a in a weird spot answering. Somebody asked if they're trying to do this organic pollinator garden with the butterflies and all the things that I kind of preach on my channel here. But their neighbors are doing the mosquito spraying. Have some professional come and spray mosquitoes on both sides. Wanted to know if it would negatively affect their garden. Probably. I mean, the bees again. I mean, the bees, just like the Japanese beetles go from yard to yard. So do the bees. So do the there's no I'm going to get bit a couple times out here by mosquitoes. It's summertime. I expect to get bitten by a couple mosquitoes out here. I'm not going to be able to prevent it all. I probably have a few less than other people. I mean, I do have a lot. There's a lot of action going on back here, and I'm super careful to dump everything. But there are mosquitoes back here, and I'm going to get bit a couple times just sitting here talking to you guys. I don't think there's anything you can do about it. So I don't know. It's not my thing. It's not my thing, and I'm glad my neighbor doesn't spray or have someone spray. That's all I'll say on that. But it's free world, free country. Somebody, this is a good question. You guys can probably answer it before I do. You probably already know it if you've watched me for a long time. Somebody says they got 6 pine trees and it's killing their lawn. Should they take the pine trees down? No, I think you should let the 6 pine trees kill your lawn, and I think you should create a big giant bed in the space. I'm never, ever going to pick your lawn over your pine trees. And so I'm going pines for the win. And then you can blend in some other hardwoods and some understory trees like redbuds or, dogwoods or whatever. And then, have a beautiful shade garden or part shade garden under your pine trees. And guess what? You have free mulch, the thing that most people would love to have. You get free pine straw every day. So, that's up to you. Again, free country, but probably I say kill your lawn, overkill the trees. Somebody, I get, there's several questions now about redbuds that are weeping. And I had a neighbor text me this the other day. They're flamethrower redbud is weeping. There seems to be a lot of variability in that plant. And so be prepared if you get a flamethrower redbud that it's not going to go up and out. You probably need to identify that in the tree as you're looking at it. There seems to be a lot of them that are very weeping. And if you don't want a weeping redbud, which is what's sitting behind me, it's a gold foliage one. If you don't want a weeping one, make sure that you see the branches are going out and up on your flamethrower redbud. But I've had that question several times, and I have seen it on one in my neighborhood where literally all the branches are, it's a weeping flamethrower. So I don't know what's going on there. I don't know why there's so much variability in it. It might be that the wood, that plant is so popular right now. I mean, there's so many people who have been trying to get their hands on it for the last 3 years since I showed it the first time. It's no exaggeration. I've probably gotten hundreds of questions about how to find a flamethrower redbud. And so it might be that in the race to create as many as possible, that they're using, every piece of the wood, in the grafting process. And so, whether it was facing down, facing up, facing whichever direction, and that they may actually just be creating weeping ones, with the type of wood that they're using to graft. Let's see. Somebody, and that was another question I had gotten at some point. I don't know if it was on this last week, but somebody wanted to know about rooting these types of redbuds. These are all grafted. They're grafted onto a different stock. So you have to, they're grafted, so it's not the type of propagation you think. I am going to have a couple propagation videos before the season's over, and I've got an interesting technique that I'm going to show you for how to propagate plants very, very easily and quickly. You'll see that in about a month. Hopefully all the things that I'm in the process of rooting out here in the garden will be rooted in about a month, and you'll see that. Somebody said, okay, there's another question about the compost. When I said that, would I bring in, if I said I wasn't bringing in any compost, would that include any compost or any company? Yes, probably. I won't bring in any more compost in here. I will bring in some wood chips so that I can make some of my own compost. I'm still short. I talked about last year turning this into a closed loop, but the stuff just wasn't big enough to really create enough material to be able to mulch the ground with the cuttings that I'm taking off the material here. I think it is now, and I mean, it's a jungle behind me, so I think at this point I can use my chipper to chip up larger limbs. I can use my food waste from the house, all the leaves that are going to fall in the fall, and then bring in some wood chips to supplement that and create my own compost to make sure that I don't end up with toxic compost here. But that will be my strategy, will be wood chips and all the things that I can come up with here. You do need a chipper. Probably if you're going to use the limbs and heavier branches off things, but you can get an inexpensive electric chipper on Amazon. You know, it's not going to cut up big giant limbs, but you know, or 2-inch caliper limbs, but these little things that you cut off your shrubs on a day-to-day basis, you know, you can pile them somewhere and then run them through the chipper one day. Make great mulch, and you can just use that as mulch straight away. You don't have to compost that, but you can, or you can compost it. Okay, somebody asked about their potato harvest time in zone 8B. They put their potatoes in at the same time I did, once the foliage has died back. And so mine, I had 5 bags where the foliage had died back and harvested them the other day. They're in the tour video. You will have seen that on Friday. It's Sunday as you're watching this. As I'm recording this is when I put that video up. And I got a lot of potatoes out of those first 5 bags. My next 5 bags are much better, and I hope to really have the mother load over there. But I'm going to eat. I'm literally. What am I having with my potatoes for lunch? What am I having with my potatoes for dinner? That's where I'm at right now with potatoes. I had bought a couple big bags of potatoes at Costco for some reason, and then I harvested those, and so I'm drowning in potatoes here. Okay. Okay. Somebody has a bunch of seedlings coming up from their Cheyenne echinacea, their Cheyenne coneflowers, and haven't seen the flowers on them yet, want to know if they're true to seed on Cheyenne. This is another 2 videos I shot this week. I shot an aster family video and a mint family video. So a Lamiaceae video and an Asteraceae video. Of all the asters in this landscape, all the mint family things in this landscape. I hope they're super, super interesting. One thing I didn't really talk about in the aster video is that asters of all times, and so coneflowers in the aster family, it's a type of aster. It's a composite. We call those composites because what you think you're looking at is one flower on a coneflower is actually many, many, many flowers together. So that's why they're called composites. Even the rays around the outside are actual individual flowers. Each of those rays that you're looking at on an aster of any kind, whether that's black-eyed Susan or a coneflower or a dahlia, it doesn't matter. But each of those flowers, interestingly, a few flowers at the time put out their male parts because they're actually hoping to cross with another plant near them. Okay, but asters have figured, have gotten pretty good at they'll self-pollinate if they have to. So their first choice is to cross with a close-by coneflower that's compatible, and their second choice is to just do it themselves, to be self-fertile. So asters are either, they can do both, and so they want to know if these are true Cheyenne echinaceas. You won't know until you see them flower. A lot of them may have self-pollinated. It's potentially that crossed with something else. It depends on where the bee came from. But it's an interesting question, and it's an aster You know, asters are pretty interesting that way. They will, you know, number one, try to cross with another plant. Ideally, they're trying to cross with another plant because that's the healthiest solution, typically, is to evolve, you know, together. And secondly, though, they're perfectly willing to have a bee just deposit the pollen in a flower right on the same composite. So, interesting question. You won't know until you see them flower. Likely, most of them did self pollinate. So, there you go. Thank you guys. I think that's like 20 questions. Thank you very much for participating in these videos, and or any question and answer videos. You can ask questions down below. Again, next week will be another question and answer, and I've got lots of interesting places I'm going, and hopefully some interesting videos coming this week. Thanks for watching.